feel like Brooks had the blueprint and laid the first foundation. Coach Newton came in, laid the foundation, put the flooring down, and I feel like I'm trying to piece it together and just keep stacking the bricks and trying to build it. It's just, when to look back, to be in a coaching tree where we all started at one spot at Andrew College, being that it's tough, it's a tough situation, people, they laugh and joke about it, but not knowing that we build it and it's steady building and getting better every year. I just feel like when we look back in about maybe 3 to 5 years, that people will really appreciate what we did here.
Hi, I'm Corey Baldwin.
And I'm Daniel Bowles. We're back with a new Off the Beaten Path, a podcast for basketball coaches living in obscurity, working in obscurity, and even those who have made it out of obscurity.
It's a place for storytelling. Some of the stories are even true. Learning, connecting, reconnecting, and food for thought and food for the belly. And today we've got 3 guys that me and Bowles both know real well, but also 3 guys that share a place in common where they've all been head coaches at. And we're talking about Andrew College, and we have Jamie Brooks, who was the first head coach to bring basketball back to Andrew College 3 seasons ago. And then Justin Newton followed in the next season. And then we have Jamison Williams, who's the only one to do it 2 seasons so far. He's starting his 2nd season. So here we are in their 4th season this season. So let's get started, man. Let's go ahead and start doing some introductions here. We'll start with you, Jamie, since you're the elder spokesman of the 3 and you started it all down there. We're going to go with the journeys, and then we'll talk about Andrew at the end of that. So give us your journey, how you got into hoops and where you're at now and all that fun stuff.
The elder statesman. All right, first started out, I was fortunate enough to begin my journey at the college level. Not many are able to do that. Are very fortunate enough to do that ever. But I was just very fortunate and blessed to start out at ABAC with Todd Shepard. And that's just kind of where I got my start, just thrown right into the fire. I had a weight session the very first day I was there. Didn't really know much about how a college weight program worked. But then they ended up cutting the program. I ended up jumping to Middle Georgia College, which was their rival at the time, and spent a couple of years at Middle Georgia College under Scott Moe, and learned a ton there. He's won a ton of games, probably average 20+ wins a season, I would think. But knowledgeable guy, definitely seen it all. Left there, took a little bit of a break. Like I said, I'm old, so I needed to go finish school at some point. So I started at Liberty, or just kind of continued more classes with Liberty. Ended up circling back to Waycross, Georgia, with Corey, and spent a year there, also at Southside Christian School for a little bit of a spell there. Ended up leaving there, went to Central Georgia Technical College with Rico Dawson for a year on the men's side as the assistant. The women's coach left. I took the head women's job there for 2 years. Then got back out of it. It's crazy. People don't want to get out because they can't get back in. And I did it a couple of times. So I've been very fortunate there, just very blessed. Ended back up at Andrew College in 2017. Yeah, 2017 for a year to restart that program there. Ended up getting out of basketball again. It's kind of a theme. And then went to be a GA with Florida State men's basketball for a year. Probably the best experience of my life. And then and now in the compliance department at Florida State.
Wow. So that's a journey. So you're at 5 separate Georgia junior colleges.
Yep.
With the men's side, one of them you were men and women. You were at 2 schools that are no longer, really 3, no longer in the league. ABAC no longer has men's basketball. Middle is an NAIA school, and then Waycross merged with South Georgia College, formed South Georgia State. So how weird was that, even though it was for a GA spot? First off, 2 questions. From little old JUCO to the Power 5, and then also from a head coach to a GA. What were those 2 moves like?
Head coach to a GA, it all kind of intertwines because a GA position people see the Instagram shots of, oh, you're getting on a plane and, you have the good hotels and these buffet spreads and all of that, and all of that's great. But where it intertwines is the work that a GA has to do to help everything run smoothly. And that's whether it's loading the baggage onto a plane in the middle of a pouring rain or whatever it may be, wake up calls for student athletes to get downstairs for a team meeting, which our guys are pretty good about here. But just that stuff, setting up practice, make sure the balls are out, cones are out, et cetera. That's where it kind of intertwines with the JUCO level and just kind of jack of all trades. So it was eye-opening from a resource standpoint, I guess you could say, and more money, things like that. But then it was a lot of the same, and I think that's what ended up helping me, to be honest, was my background of just grinding at the JUCO level and, mopping floors and throwing ice into cold tubs, so that actually helped me. But it was definitely not that I have a huge ego, but I think we all do in some aspects. But it was definitely a lot different going from a head coach to now just kind of sitting back and taking all of the information in. And you're always learning, so that helped. But it was definitely just kind of a bump, not a bump down, but just a different view for what I was used to.
Now, Jamie, and Corey mentioned it here a second ago, but you started the program from scratch. So, when we talk about coming in, no players, no gear, no equipment, can you just talk, just tell everybody from, where Andrew is now, where it's a respected program where you guys have it rolling and winning. Tell us what that was like stepping in with nothing.
Well, it was funny. They ended up offering me the job after I interviewed, as I was leaving the office after my interview. And I go to the gym. I hadn't really walked around a whole lot, seen campus, things like that. And the gym wasn't really set up, I guess, for men's basketball, the areas, the locker rooms, things like that. And so, they had just put it into motion. They were getting the team. And I remember the volleyball coach showed me the locker room we could use. And it was, I can't describe how small it was. It's probably smaller than a JV locker room at a high school, maybe. I don't even know JVs have their own locker room. But all I could think of is, we're going to get 4 guys in here, was all I could think. And so a news station did an interview with me the next day or sometime that week. And he asked me what was the first thing I did. And literally the first thing I did was we had to order balls. And there were no basketballs. They had women's balls because they had a women's program. And they didn't have any – they had some recreation balls, the open gym for the students and things like that, but we had to order balls. And this was late, kind of late in the process. And so I was already behind on recruiting for that year. I had workouts coming up for dudes. And so I didn't have any way to have workouts. So I remember going to buy and bought 2 balls on my own until ours could get there. And so that's what I remember. One kid was doing 2-ball dribble. And I just remember laughing. I was like, man, I can't have anybody else in here because we don't have enough balls. So, but yeah, just getting it off started. There were just so many little things, a dry erase board in the locker room. It all started, my assistant, who I initially hired for us, he ended up, he's a great guy, we still talk all the time now. He went to be 3 weeks in, almost a month in. He comes and tells me he's taking the job at College of Charleston on the women's side. And so, no, I'm sorry, Charleston Southern on the women's side. And so he took the assistant's job, which is great for him. And so he comes and tells me that. So 3 weeks in, our assistant, who was really good, he had it all together, was very bright future, comes in and tells me, hey, coach, I'm gone. And so now I'm trying to figure out how everything's working. He had the weight room. I did a lot of other things, but he had a lot on his plate. He was the dorm monitor, so to speak, things like that. And so he leaves. And so we hire another guy, Aaron Cobb, who comes in. And so we're already kind of changing things just, not even a month into the season. And I can remember scheduling, trying to schedule. people didn't really, there was one school, they didn't really know if we had a men's team or not, even though I told them, hey, I'm the men's coach. We want to schedule a game. They said, well, they only have women's. I said, yeah, I understand that. I said, I'm the new coach here. It's a brand new program, et cetera, et cetera. And so just talking people into playing us, which in hindsight, you figured everybody would want to play a brand new program, but just trying to talk them into playing us was a little weird. So just things like that. Painting the first week, the new assistant was there for us. We are in the locker room and we are sanding down extra lockers because we didn't have enough lockers for a full team. We're sanding down, and I think Newton and Jamison probably see different colored lockers on the one end. And it's because you see all these nice lockers, and then you see these 2, maybe 3 lockers over to the left. They're just completely different color. And so it was all we could get at the time. And I remember Mark Brown. Mark Brown's the greatest guy ever, the facilities guy. He's kind of a jack of all trades, announcing everything. And he just starts laughing when he comes in there. I was proud. I was happy. Hey, look what we did. He comes in there and just laughs. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, it kind of is what it is. But no, I mean, it was all just kind of a work in progress. And from the start, from ordering balls to putting a team together, trying to convince, the hardest thing to me was trying to convince recruit student athletes to come to a place where you didn't have any history. I mean, you had history way back before, but not any recent history. I mean, you could say, yeah, 20 years ago, we did A, B, C, and D. Well, they're like, all right, well, how are you going to move me on to a 4-year school now? And so then you have to go into your personal background of working at CGTC in Middle Georgia, and, hey, this is what I've been able to do. Just trust me on this. So that just kind of, just to see it kind of come full circle now, obviously with Justin taking over, who did an incredible job getting them to where they did, and then Jamison, it was pretty incredible just to kind of see from what it was to what it is now. It's pretty remarkable to see.
It's awesome. Anytime you start a new program, it's always it seems easier than it is. Everybody thinks they've got everything covered, and then you start realizing they don't. When we did it at Waycross, one of the mistake, we made a lot of mistakes, but there were so many, and you look back and laugh, and you wonder how you even get through it. But we didn't have an ice machine for a whole year in the gymnasium, which almost 2 years. And we joked when we qualified to go to Hutch in our second season was, will we get ice now? That was our big thing. We were hoping we would get ice. All right, so we're going to introduce the second guy here who came in after Jamie, and we'll let him tell his path a little bit. I have a couple questions for him, and then we'll go to Jamison, who's on deck now. So let's go, Justin Newton. Walk us through it, man.
I played. My dad was a high school coach and an assistant pastor. He still is an assistant pastor at a real large church in North Augusta, South Carolina. Little private school is where I played, and ended up going to Tennessee Temple for a few years and played there under a guy named Randy Lee. And it was very similar to where I'm at now, Reinhardt University, small private school up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Gave me a chance, and I didn't end up finishing there. I actually graduated from Liberty University, just like Jamie did. Ended up finishing my degree from LU, and I had always had aspirations of coaching. I didn't really know what that meant, though. I didn't know if I wanted to coach in college, if I wanted to be a high school coach. I didn't really know. Everybody says you need to have goals as to what you want your career path to be. I didn't know. And but I did mention to Coach Lee, who I played for at Temple, that I'd love to try and coach in college. And he gave me some pointers of stuff to do, work camps, be out, things like that. So when I got done, I ended up going back home, and my dad had retired, so they let me take over as a little volunteer private school. As the head coach, volunteer head coach, and we end up having a pretty good year. And we go and take that team to a little team camp. It's like July, And I get a call about like in the middle of one of our games, and I see, Coach Lee. Someone brings my phone, and I said, I'll call him later, obviously. And I gave him a call later, and he said, man, there's this guy in Waycross, Georgia, which I've never heard of before. I didn't know where that was. And he said, this guy's assistant left. It's kind of similar to how Jamie's assistant left. And it was CB, Coach Baldwin, down in Waycross, and his assistant just up and took another job, and he had an opening. And he asked me, did I have any interest? And I said, absolutely. So I kind of did the same deal Jamie did. I went down there, interviewed, didn't have a clue what I was doing or what I was getting into. I mean, I brought my like 19-year-old girlfriend with me on the interview at CB's favorite place, Rancheros, that we went to. And I'm sure CB was like, what is this guy doing? So I interviewed there, obviously loved it, found out that my dad actually grew up not far from there. Ended up working for Coach Baldwin at what was then called Waycross College, the Swamp Foxes, and was his assistant for 2 years in between the time that it merged to what it is now, South Georgia State College. We even joked the day that the merger happened, it was actually a dead fox out at the front of the Waycross campus in the middle of the road and said the Swamp Fox is officially dead. Worked for him there for 2 years, went on from there, was a GA, graduate assistant at Columbus State University under Robert Moore. Was there 1 year. We went to the national tournament and went on from there. Took my first full-time assistant job at Lee University under Tommy Brown. I get there and I get engaged to my current wife, who I met in Waycross. She's from Waycross, Nikki. And we go there. I had no idea that we were on the hot seat when I took the job. We didn't have a great year. Got fired about a month and a half before I'm about to get married. So I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. And I ended up I was searching all kinds of places for jobs. And I got a call from Coach Baldwin and a guy that was the current assistant at Valdosta State, and said that there's this opening in Monticello, Arkansas. And I had no desire at all to go all the way out to Arkansas. But I needed to get paid. I needed to be able to support my family. So we packed up, moved to Monticello, Arkansas, at D2, University of Arkansas, Monticello, went out there. They hadn't had a ton of success at that point, but, they had a really good head coach. Kyle gave me a chance, and we ended up going to the national tournament, winning the league there. 3 all-conference guys. One of them was Corey's point guard, Kareem Malignega. Spent 2 years there, had 2 really good seasons. And then I had mentioned to Coach Baldwin, like, hey, me and Nikki are trying to start a family. And, we're trying to get back home, trying to find a place back home, be a head coach. And he had mentioned that Jamie might be leaving. And obviously, I've known Jamie for a long time. And but he gave Jamie a call, and I gave Jamie a call. And Jamie kind of hooked me up there at Andrew, small college situation, moved there. We had a great year. We won the league, got to host the tournament. I still owe Jamie a whole lot. After that, 4 of those guys he left us are with me currently here at Reinhardt University that will, I'm sure, have a major impact on this program. One of them was Player of the Year, Jalen Wimberly. And that job took me here, now going into my 2nd year at Reinhardt University. Probably could owe that to this group as well, because one of the assistant ADs here, it was former teammate of Daniel Bowles, Mr. Jeffrey Portier, that was at LaGrange. So that was my path.
Between you and Jamie, I'm already at like 10 stops on here. So we are truly off the beaten path today. I'm trying to keep up with all of them. But, one thing when you look at, so you go to 3 different Division II schools, and 2 of them you go to the national tournament, 1 of them you get let go. What can you say about those experiences, the good and the bad, that's helped you prepare to be a head coach?
Just learning the ins and outs of running a program. And I think, the biggest thing I learned about getting the right players in there was understanding who your head coach was. And that was a piece of advice Coach Baldwin always gave me, and understanding who that guy is and getting the right guys in there that match the system and what you want out of that guy, and in becoming a head coach, trying to run a program, trying to figure out who I am, what do I like, and what do I think is important, what do I find important, and find the guys that not necessarily may not be the best guy I could get, but it's the guy that fits what we're trying to do and how we play and how my personality is and things like that. So I think I took that. I took away, there's so many, every program, I don't care how nice it is, they got things that aren't good about that place that make it difficult to win. I don't really care where you're at. I've been at high level D2s, I've been at small JUCOs, I've been at private universities, and there are just things that make it tough at every spot that you're at, and it's really about who you're competing against. So just trying to figure out, what's good about it. What can you sell? What is it that makes Ryan really good or Andrew College really good that's different than somebody else, as opposed to we don't have enough scholarship money, or we have really bad location, or we don't have a big budget? What is it that makes it really, really good? And I think that's what I took away from being at different spots and understanding, man, this place is nicer, but it has some difficulties that were better at this place, So just trying to understand the place and the head coach and trying to figure out, what's best to make that work.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, you survived working for some crazy guys for sure. Obviously myself thrown in there, but I guess what's originally your dad being a coach, how did that help you? Because I would imagine a lot,
Yeah, it did. I mean, my dad was, and again, it was at a very small level, but he had a lot of success. And the thing I learned the most about him, and I think I get from him, is, his unbelievable work ethic. He cannot sit down. Coach Baldwin and my dad are very similar. Guys can't sit down, love to eat, but he works really hard. And then, man, I don't know, anybody I respect more that had the respect of his players any more than my dad did. He was really hard. He was really tough. For being a preacher, he'd get pretty red-faced in a game, but, he was really intense, but his players knew they loved him and they cared about him. And I feel that way to this day about him. And he's kind of passed that on, I hope, to me, where our guys really know that we care about him, we love him, and that we do want to win games, and we are competitors, but we care about them. So I think I got those two things from him for sure.
Well, Danny Ainge always said if you wanted to get in a fight in a ball game, just go to a church league, and
yeah, no doubt.
You would get that solved pretty fast. But anyway, all right, so now we bring it up to the cleanup hitter. All right, we're going to introduce Jamison. Jamison, I give a quick one on him before he talks. When he came to Waycross to play for us, to say he was not a good shooter might be a compliment. Okay. And he had this one of these palm things, old school wooden paddles. We had a plastic one, and I told him he had to get his other hand off the ball because he shot two-handed. So he put the thing on there, and he would do it every day. And I've had other guys I've asked to do things like that, and it's not cool, so they don't do it as much. Every day you can count on it. He would put it on. He kept up with that. And, we won a big conference game his sophomore year where he hit 5 threes in that game. And I think that but anyway, that's just kind of a quick story on him. So let's have Jamison. Go ahead and give us your journey and path.
Short journey, man. It's funny you bring up the hand thing. Coach Baldwin used to make me do dribbling drills with it on. And I used to think, man, what am I doing? And I was always a bigger guy. I played out of small town, Bradley County High School. I probably should have went and played football, but I looked up to a couple of people that took a different path, and my brother was one of them. Rico Lewis played at Waycross College, so I looked up to that guy, and I thought, well, Rico can make it through college. I know I can because I stayed with him, and I knew who he was. He used to always tell me, he's just telling me, bro, you got a chance. You got a chance. I don't know if it's football, basketball, you got a chance, you know. And I was never a great basketball player. I just knew to play hard and outwork people. I was bigger than everybody, so you know, that was my advantage. So, you know, I kind of took it and ran with it, and then got to CB, and I remember T. Page telling me, hey, don't shoot the ball. Whatever you do, do not shoot. He said, just go to the rack, show your athleticism, and do what you got to do, but do not shoot. So every time, you know, those guys then, Stan, Tooks, you know, they dare me to shoot. And I'm like, you know, so we get to the shooting drill. I'm thinking, I look at T. Page, he was like, well, you ain't got no choice. First time I shot one, I looked at Coach Ballman, he was like, oh man, you know, so I was shook. So I knew I had to come in and do what I had to do. You know, I was never the smartest in the classroom. I had some people to help me and tutor me. You know, I remember my first year as a red shirt. You know, as a red shirt, you're there to make the grades and do the right things. I remember my first year I think it was like a 1.9. I feared for my life going to Coach Ballman's office. You know, he told me, he said, man, I don't know what the heck you doing, but either you get this up or you go home. And I remember I strung off like 2 or 3 4.0s in a row, or 3 5s or something. I was like, man, last thing I got to do is let my brother beat me or make it through college before I get, you know, before I'm done with it. So I had some motivation with those guys, and, you know, I make it away across, meet Coach Newton. My class was the last of the dying breed with the Swamp Foxes. So, you know, I got the best of both worlds. You know, as time went along, Coach Ballman got a little bit softer. but nah, he stayed on us, man. And well, you know, I met Coach Newton. I met Coach Brooks before that because he was already there. And you know, sometimes we play. I forgot where we was at. I met Coach Brooks and we was playing. And the first thing he said, he can't shoot. Well, I just go to the rim and talk trash. So that's just who I was, man. I was just a tough guy, and, you know, try to use my body. But we get there, I meet Coach Newton, you know, cool guy, talk with him. You know, we have our memories. As time go on, he leaves, you know, and then we stay in touch, we keep in touch. And I told him one day if I ever got into this, I wanted him to give me a chance. And, you know, I left. I got recruited by Thomas University, which Coach Cox was there at the time. And Coach Cox had, you know, signed me. And then he called me and told me he was leaving. So I decided to stay because 2 of my former teammates was there, Tyler Bull and TJ Rhines. So I felt like that still would be home for me, just so I'd be comfortable. So I took the shot. I went. You know, after that, I met Brent Cruz, who was the assistant at San Francisco before he got to Thomas University. And, you know, the 2 things I learned from Coach Ballman and Coach Cruz was discipline and relationships. So I just kind of took those 2 things and I ran with them. You know, and Coach Cruz used to tell me all the time, if you can do right, you got a chance, you know. And school was never my strong suit, so that was the biggest thing. All my mentors and everybody, high school coach, you graduated yet? You graduated yet? And I'm like, man, you know, I'm just taking it, trying my best to get along. And once I got over that edge, it was on from there because, you know, I was a student assistant finishing up at Thomas, and I started doing things that nobody wanted to do or those guys didn't have time to do. And same thing when I was at Red Shirt. You know, I used to tote the 32-inch box TV with the CD burner everywhere. Didn't care what people thought. You know, I didn't. Well,
TV, do you still have that?
Yeah.
The funny story is it blew in a game at Highlands, and we lost that night in like the semifinals. And the guys, I told them to throw it away, and they went and set it in the parking lot of Highlands. So Phil calls me after they cut down nets and says, hey, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I know this is your TV. Nobody else brings a TV to film. So can you come get it? And I'm like, just throw it away. I go ahead. My bad, James.
Yeah. So, you know, I used to do those things as a red shirt. You know, everybody else wanted to be the cool guy. And Coach Newton said, Coach Ballman said, ain't no cool guy in this game. You know, and I was that guy. Like, if Coach told me to do this, I'm going to go do it regardless of what happened. you know, I got to do my part. And, you know, he used to send me to these events, and I'm like, man, you know, I don't want to do, but what they were doing was preparing me for where I am now. And so it kind of added on, and the things that happened in the past for me is what created me to be who I am now between Coach Baldwin and Coach Cruz. And, you know, when I was at Thomas as a student assistant, I worked in the CAF. I had 15 hours, and I worked with the athletic department. So every day I was up at 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock because I had to get my workout in before I went to sleep. So it was an everyday thing, and people be like, man, you gonna burn yourself out. And I'm like, you know, I'm trying to get somewhere. Regardless of what I do, if I give it everything I got, you know, things will happen. And then I get a call from Coach Newton. You know, he told me he had some things in the work, and he was ready to give me a chance. So I was excited about that. Didn't know where it would really go. And then he said Andrew College was a spot. So I drive down here, you know, nothing here, which I'm a country boy, so it didn't really bother me. But it was in a situation where you kind of didn't know where it was going to go. And I remember Coach Newton just saying, we just got to go, give it everything we got. You know, we can make a way if we get the recruits that we want and things that we need and people that want to be here rather than just players. We can make things happen. And, I mean, Brooks left us with 4 returners. Those guys were the head of the snake, so to say. Jalen Wembley scored. DJ Lampkin played hard as crap. Marcus, or Ox. And then Jordan Wright, you know, who brought all the laughter and, you know, could shoot it, played for us, never complained. And after that, you know, we recruited 14 guys, you know, and it was memories, man. It was memories. So then Coach Newton called me at the end of the season. We had a great run. You know, we sent those guys on, and he said he was moving on and asked me did I want to take it. And at first I didn't know because I was in a situation where I felt like I was too young or didn't have the knowledge to take on a role that big being so young. I was only 25. So, you know, I told him I'd sit on it. If not, I'll go with him to wherever he go next. And it took me about a week and a half, 2 weeks, Coach, probably for me to decide, like, I'm ready to jump in the fire. You know, I called all my mentors, called different people and see what they thought. And I remember Coach Cruz telling me, he said, you either start now when you're 25 or you either start when you're 30. And he said, he was 32 at the time. He said, when you look back, if you start now, when you get my age, you'll already be so many years in, you know. He said, if you lose every game, you still have that on your resume. You still get the experience that you need pushing forward. So, and that's why I ended up taking it. Last year, my first year, we went 21-10. We had a great year. You know, I had a good returning class as well. We had 9 returners that brought it every day. So I was just happy for it, man. And this year we're moving forward, and I hope the same deal. You know, as the years get longer, we just progress. You know, I feel like Brooks had the blueprint and laid the first foundation. Coach Newton came in, you know, laid the foundation, put the flooring down, and I feel like I'm trying to piece it together and just keep stacking the bricks and trying to build it. So, you know, it's just when to look back to be in a coaching tree where we all started at one spot at Andrew College, being that it's tough, it's a tough situation. People, they laugh and joke about it, but not knowing that we build it and it's steady building, getting better every year. I just feel like when we look back in about maybe 3 to 5 years that people will really appreciate what we did here because I appreciate what those guys did for me and the foundation that they set for me. So that's my journey.
So Jamison, one thing, and I think this has been kind of a consistent thing on the podcast, is just the things that guys have to do to break into coaching. Like you talk about working in the cafeteria and stuff. And, you know, I know some people look at it and see getting a job that young and they want to know how to get in the business. So from you, what would you tell a guy who wants to break into it, who wants to get something going? What advice would you give them based on kind of some of the, you know, things you went through? How can they get into college or high school or wherever to get a job and get into coaching?
For the ones that's playing college ball now, I feel like it's best to do everything you can for that coach that you under and be grateful for where you are and be willing to do everything and it'll come back on you in a great way. And you just never know. I just felt like I ain't saying I'm doing it, I did everything right, but anything that was asking me, I got it done right then and there. And, you know, it's kind of those find a way guys. You know, anytime a coach asks you something, find a way. And never make an excuse, because you never know where you're going to end up. So if you want to end up coaching or end up going into high school, build those relationships with guys that are at that level. You know, no matter, like right now, if I ended up, I want to go D1 or go to a new job or do this or that, you know, I feel like the best thing would be for me to have a relationship with that guy that's ahead of me. You know, get advice from someone else. We all got goals, but in order for you to take that step, you must work towards that goal by getting advice from somebody at that level. So, you know, for me, I feel like you just got to work. You got to work. And I know everybody said you start in the trenches and then work your way up. You really do. You know, you start from the bottom. We all did, you know. I mean, I feel like Brooks took the beating for me and Coach Newton to be successful, you know. And no matter what we do it with a smile on our face, regardless if we fail or not. We know a losing season doesn't make us a failure. You know, you build on, like right now, if a guy want to get into coaching, they get denied. If you get denied from that job, well, go to somebody you know that trusts you, that can put out a word for you. Because I feel like the only way you can get into this job or at the next level is, you know, your recommendations. And I feel like those guys vouch for me.
I would say, when you say beating, we took a beating.
Yeah.
Like oh man, like we won single digits. Like, I don't even remember like 8 or 9 games I think we won.
Nah.
Yeah, I think 9. I mean, we were all freshmen, but I was talking about beating. Like, ooh.
It's a conference tournament, though.
Yeah, right. We did make the conference tournament, so.
You know, it's funny. You mentioned that, Jamison. You know, losing a game doesn't make you a loser, and the other one is winning a game doesn't always make you a winner either. And I know that can get a little touchy-feely, maybe a little too much Dr. Phil, but there's a lot. I think that's very true. And you meet a lot of guys who have winning records that aren't winners, and you meet some guys that have losing records that are not losers. So that's a great point. Well, I had one. I was curious, you know, with Rico, you know, having such a great career, and kind of how his went was so crazy. You know, he didn't go to school right away, and then he ended up being a JUCO All-American, and then he went to a D2 and ended up having to leave and went to another D2 and set out a couple of years and then went NAIA, but ultimately got his degree. You know, he's a story for everybody, really. But you seeing all that happen, how does that help you, not just with your career coaching, but help you with other players? Because, you know, we're all going to coach guys who's got different paths. You feel like it helps you stuff?
I do. You know, Rico's he's not my blood brother, but him and my real brother are brothers. So he moved in with us coming from Palatka, Florida. Mm-hmm. And I just watched him grow and change his ways and everything that he done just to try to be successful at playing ball. You know, we had an older brother that was better than him. And I feel like Rico took from him and, you know, he made his ways. And I always tell my guys that there's not a story they can give me that I haven't been through. Either me or my family been through. You know, my brother was, you know, he had his ways, you know, and these guys always try to give you an excuse of, well, coach, I'm this. Well, coach, I never had that. Or their habits, or they try to find an excuse for their habits, you know. And I just tell my guys, like, if you give up on yourself now, or if you continue to do these habits, they're going to catch up to you. And, you know, like I said, relationships are definitely the biggest thing with me here, because it's hard to get a guy at Andrew, because right now tuition is $31,000. So you have to build those relationships. You have to build that trust. And with me and my brother I seen everything that he done, wrong or right. And even though he done those things, he never allowed me to. And he always made sure I was on the right path, regardless of what he was doing. And so I take that over to my guys. Like, no matter what you're doing, and now I tell them, I'm going to demand it from you. I'm going to demand you to be a winner. And with that being said, I push them to that. Coach, I do this every day. I'm this person. No, you're not. Like, that's just who you want to be. All right, let's do it. Let's go it this way. You know, if they go through a situation, I try to go through it with them. You know, I want to see it from their point of view, put myself in their shoes to help them out moving forward, because some guys, everybody come from a different background, you know, and you never know what they're going through. So the best way to, you know, kind of get in there and understand them is to talk to them every day, make them laugh, build that trust. You know, sometimes it can bite you because, you know, they think, you know, we're like buddy, but you have to create that discipline or that thin line between player and coach. I feel like that helped me a lot.
If I may piggyback on what
Mm-hmm.
he said, J-Mac, what he's getting to is about, you know, relationships or whatever. I know there's a term that gets thrown around, networking, you know, but I think every job I've ever had the opportunity to get was because of one in particular relationship. I think all three of us owe a lot of our careers to is Coach Baldwin, right? I mean, I talk to him every day, and he's in my wedding, one of my best friends. And that wasn't a relationship I went looking for, trying to get a job out of it. That's just one of your friends. I think genuine relationships, people that you actually know and you actually care about, those are the people that get you jobs. It's not going to some big, you know, the big Final Four, you know, and going handing out business cards. It's making those relationships with and having mentors. Anytime I have a problem to this day, the first phone call I make is my dad or Coach Baldwin, and I know those guys can point me in the right direction. And I think J-Mac, I think that's what I got out of what J-Mac was saying, and that's really true of my path as well.
And me and Pops will give you a good place to eat.
Yeah,
While you're talking about it. All right, so let's talk a little bit before we go to our lightning round questions. Let's talk a little bit about Andrew College. And for those out there that are listening that don't know where that is, okay, it's Cutberth, Georgia. And it's not a lot in that town, but really what makes it unique is not that. There's a lot of junior colleges and small colleges that can say that. But what makes it unique is it's a private institution in junior college. And there's only, you know, about 2 or 3 in the whole Southeast United States. And, you know, I worked at one that was in that category, Truett McConnell, but it's now a 4-year, and it's now even a university. And I was there for 3 years. So I kind of know a little bit about some of that crazy world you have to live in, but it's totally different. You play in a league with 8 other teams, and 4 of them are tech schools. And you know, their requirements and their money are different, and 4 of them are university system schools, public, you know, colleges that are 4-year colleges playing in junior college. So you're in a league where you are the only one the way you are. So tell us, I guess, just in one quick summary, what is the major difference and what's good and bad about it? Jamie, you start it, and we'll go right back around the circle again. Jamie, Newton, and Jamison, and then Bowles will ask a question about Andrew as well.
I think Jamison hit on it earlier. It's more, you know, it's 31,000 in that, right, Jamison?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it's 31,000 now. When I was there, I'll always remember this number to the day I die. It was 26,548. So, and my situation was, not only am I having to go sell guys on a completely brand new program, like, yeah, you can come play and get playing time because we have no returners, but it's also 26,548. So that obviously is one of the huge differences. And I will say Andrew College does put scholarship money towards that. So it's not like, oh, it's 26,000, good luck. So there is scholarship money allotted that goes towards each student athlete. So that definitely helps. But I remember recruiting against Atlanta Metro for a point guard, and they offered him a full. And it's what Atlanta Metro did at the time. They're no longer in the league, but it is probably my favorite T-shirt. But they basically offered the kid a full and told him, do you want all your Pell back, or do you want to use your money and take out a bunch of loans to go there? And the kid called me. He said, Coach, my dad wants to talk to you. It's like, all right. So dad gets on the phone. I have no idea what he's about to say. It's on there. Like, Coach, he's like, we just want to tell you this is a strictly financial decision. He's like, it has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with your program. Like, it's just strictly financial. He said, we want to come there. He said, you did everything you could, but we're just not financially able to do it. And there wasn't like, what do you say to that? Call me if it doesn't work out. Like, I don't know, thanks, it really means a lot that you like us that much. But it was hard from a financial aspect. Once you got onto campus, it's not what people perceive it to be, I don't think. From the outside looking in, you're like, oh man, look at that place. Once you get onto campus, it's a different story. The student athlete dorms are good dorms. The cafeteria it's your school cafeteria. It's just like I had at Middle Georgia and ABAC with my first job. And all of that's the same. The academics are a little bit tougher just because of entrance exams and stuff like that. So it's a little bit tougher. But as a whole, the money is kind of what separates it, because at the end of the day, you're thinking 2-year degree. But on the flip side, most of the students that are there are athletes. They want to move on to the 4-year school. And so that's kind of the area of how you have to approach it and kind of focus on. And I always remember I broke down every single money. I remember the guy at Georgia Tech right now who played for Bowles, Bubba Parham. I was at, me and Bowles joked, I was like one of his assistants that year. I was at so many games. Not that, I thought he was coming there or whatever, but I wanted to do it until he told me no. And so, recruited him. Well, at the end of the day, he also had an offer from South Georgia State that wasn't anywhere near it. And so I just think the financial drawbacks are tough, but once you get somebody there, it's relatively easy, and it's a great school, and it's got great people there too. The AD is just top notch. So that was just my experience. I don't want to say my worst experience because it was kind of my own fault, but I was kind of back and forth. My parents didn't live far away in Leesburg, and so some nights we had early morning workouts the next day, so I would stay in the dorm, not the student athlete dorm. It was like another dorm that they weren't using, or the heat didn't work, and so it's the middle of January, and it's freezing cold. Freezing cold is like 40 in South Georgia. And so my wife's sitting over there. We're in this twin bed, and I don't know if it was twin, it may have been like an infant bed in the dorm, and huddled together with like 2 or 3 blankets and a small little space heater like blowing on us. And so that was just kind of my Andrew College. Just one of my memories was that. But it's a great college. People say, I know we talk about this a lot. Is it a good job? I mean, it's a job. Every job is what you make it. And this one in particular, you can see it between me, Newton, and Jamison, that it is what you make it. Like, it could have been easily, the next guy could have came in and kept losing 7, 8, or winning 7, 8, 9 games, but it's what you put into it. It makes it a good job or not. So it's all about, I think, your outlook and your perspective on that going forward. And I'll say it's worked because of this. It's worked because of my background, Justin's background, and Jamison's background. We're JUCO guys. And like, we'll always be, Stan Jones tells me all the time, I'm just an old high school coach. He's been at the P5 level for almost 30 years now. And he still has that mindset, I'm just an old high school coach. And he's right. Like, we're just old JUCO guys, and we'll always be that. And if you put somebody who doesn't understand what JUCO is into Andrew College, it's probably not going to work.
But you, Newton?
Yeah, I'll before I get into what makes it different, I stayed in that same dorm, Jamie. When we couldn't find a house, and that's another story. Trying to find somewhere to live in Cuthbert, Georgia, may be worse. Everybody that works there probably drives 45 minutes to an hour to come to work. I was staying in that dorm, and they'd done a lot of work. I was sleeping in it. Then one morning at 6 a.m., there's like stuff coming out of the ceiling. They were demolishing and ripping out all the stuff in the dorm while I was still sleeping in there, and they didn't have a clue I was in there. So I come running out in the hallway, and like just my boxers going, whoa, 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 let me get my stuff out first. So I've been in that forsaken place, and they've recently redone it, and it looks really good now. But I stayed over in that dorm for a little while. But I think that the thing that makes a difference, absolutely, the money thing. But one thing that was really good and that has helped me here, because it's a very similar situation, obviously a bigger school, nicer area, was crunching the numbers, right? So we may not have had full scholarships, but what you were trying to look for was, do they get Hope Scholarship? Do they get Pell? Is there anything, ACDN? So if they could do some type of work study where they help with media, and you were trying to just stack it close enough to where it wasn't just an astronomical difference. So instead of just going and walking in the gym and going, hey, he's the best one, I want him, we would start going in there and go, all right, he's really good. Does he get Hope? Does he get Pell? Because if not, he's not coming here. So we really started, wanting to mark those things off for trying to at least, because the people we were competing with, and again, is it a good job or not? The people we were competing with have full scholarships or close to it. But there was also some things that made it really good. I worked for Coach Baldwin. We didn't have a cafeteria, and we didn't have dorms. We had duplexes that we had to clean, and we had to pay rent in. And Sage Street's a story in its own. And we had no cafeteria. So, hey, if you got Pell or anything, one, it was covering your scholarship. But then you had to go figure out what to eat. I mean, hey, go get McDonald's or Jerry J's or whatever. But at least, again, what makes the job good? Andrew, unlike a lot of the schools in that league, I mean, it's got a real college atmosphere. You've got a cafeteria. You've got several dorm options. It's got a big library. It's got everything you need to be really successful there. So if you could sell them on, man, hey, your kids live here. They walk over to the cafeteria. You don't have to worry about them when they're here. You're going to pay for it. But when you drop your kid off, they got everything that they need. And at the JUCO level, at any JUCOs or small college basketball, that's not always often the case. So definitely stacking the numbers and understanding what makes that place good. But every private school is definitely its own entity. You're not getting any kind of outside funds. Everything has to be self-sufficient. So everybody at this university has as much to lose as you do in getting the right amount of students here, the right amount of fundraising, and all that stuff becomes extremely important. Not that it isn't anywhere else, but we're not in the university systems of Georgia, at Andrew or at Reinhardt. You have to rely on how many students are in school, and every school has to some extent, but it really, really comes down to that enrollment-based institutions and what kind of fundraising can you put through. So definitely the financial pressure is the difference for sure. But what Jamie said, it is what you make it. If you can find those kids that can either afford it or they check all those boxes to make it work, and they find value in the other things that make Andrew or Reinhardt or wherever that place is really good, then you can make it work.
All right. And Jamison, you finish yourself there. I know they've hit on a lot of it, but is there any?
Yeah. So at Brooks, they were talking about the dorms. Like right now, they went through that, and then now we got renovated dorms. Both boy dorms are renovated. They built apartment dorms now. I think the best thing here, even though money is always the issue, is family. The AD is great. AD, he'll break his neck for us to have anything that he can get us. The president is here every day. She show face. The president get out, paint with you, scrape the floors, anything, and I felt like for me, it's just like, Coach Baldwin, Coach Cruz, the guy I work over the summer with, those things are, hey, if my boss man is going hard every day, that means I can go hard every day. You know, if she making the best of this school as a president, then I should do the same as a coach, because they believed in us to do that. You know, they gave us that opportunity. So I feel like my biggest thing here is make the best of it. You know, and I watch those guys do it. And now, you know, recruiting, we talk about recruiting. With me, I don't even go in the gym and try to get the best player. You know, really it's last chance you, because every guy we've ever had, you know, they're on their second chance, or nobody gave them that opportunity. You know, like I got guys right now, grades, so they had to come. Nobody knew about them. They sat out 2 years, got bigger, you know, things like that. They got kids, so whatever it may be, you just never know. And I just try to give guys opportunities. You know, even if you don't want to take it, you don't have to. I'll never be mad at you for not taking it. You know, but if you need me, hey, I'm here. You know, and then they just think on it. You know, and Coach Newton and vouch, we never had to really fight for a recruit. You know, we had Tim Williamson, Keith Littles, Jordan Booker. Those guys end up being major guys last year, but that first year we didn't have to say, hey, are you going here? Are you going to this school? It was, hey, coach, I want to be at Andrew. You know, and then once they got here, you know, we worked for 2 years. They both gained, Tim and Keith both gained 25 pounds. You know, just those things, to make the best of it is such a powerful, you know, phrase, because anybody can come in here and just slack or be, I guess, just accept who they are when they first get here. But no, we had guys that work. And, you know, they spoke for the program itself. All right, everybody working, the head coach working, the assistant working, all the players putting in the work. They pushing each other every day. You may not see it now. You don't know, but down the road, it's going to pay off. And I felt like, you know, and Keith Littles is a guy me and Coach Newton always talk about. Kid, we had him second on our list the first year. He ended up being probably 12th after week 2 or 3 because he was so cocky, he was so arrogant, but he was little, he was younger. He just didn't know, but we knew he could play. But when you've been disrespectful, it's certain things that you can't accept as a head coach that will mold the kid either now or later. And I felt like with Coach Newton, you know, killing him, bashing him, disciplining him, he got to accept those things. Okay, yeah, I'm good. I know I'm good. But if I can't play the way Coach want me to play, don't matter. And, you know, that's the thing here at Andrew. A lot of people come here thinking, like, what's Andrew? Like, nobody here, nobody that. Okay. You know, I'll tell my guys, raise your hand if you was the best person on your high school team. Everybody. So why you think you about to come in and do that? Mm-hmm. You know, and it's just one of the things you just have to work. You know, being in Cutberth is not the best thing ever, no. But you're in the middle of Columbus. You right by Albany. You're an hour and 30 from Auburn, hour and 40 from Tallahassee. Everything is right here that you need. And as a student, you know, I look back and me and Coach DeMontrez, we joke, you know, hey, if we had a calf, we was already 210, 220. Ain't no telling how big it would have been. You know, these guys here, the calf might have something bad one day. Me and Coach sitting there eating like we back in school, just being thankful, you know. Like you said, if you ain't been JUCO, you don't understand. If you never been JUCO, you don't understand. And, you know, we killed these guys with that, you know, and, you know, Coach Ball used to say, don't ever compare one team to the next. And I don't necessarily compare teams or universities, but I compare the struggle that we went through or the success that we had. You know, I don't compare this guy to that guy, but we all went through similar things and we all accepted them different ways, you know. And I tell guys all the time, the group I graduated with, 2 of them already been my assistants. The rest of them all successful right now. It was only because of what we built when we was there by ourselves when no one was looking. You know, at Andrew is what you do now. You know, I don't care about, I don't tweet, I don't do this. It's about what the work you put in now. And I feel like that's a whole thing for the whole entire college, from professors, coaches, the city, anything. So that's kind of my spiel. And to bounce off that, as an assistant, you know, Boaz, I should have said this when you asked. As an assistant, you make $1,500 the entire year. So think about getting a paycheck every 2 weeks worth $60. You know, just think about that. So people don't understand that stuff that you go through to get where you are now. So
I love it. Well, one of the things I laugh at before we go into the lightning round, and Bowles will start us with that. One thing I laugh at is some of these JUCO websites that are out there that promote JUCOs and they work to help JUCOs. They seem to always gravitate to the JUCOs that really don't need the help. And I'm not trying to be ugly, but they gravitate to Ben Sims. They've been good before Twitter was invented.
what?
Odessa, you know, they go and Hutchinson and you know, some of the other ones, you know, Okaloosa Walton, now Northwest Florida. I'm so old. Northwest Florida and Chipola and Eastern Florida, and you know, some of those guys, and some of the ones, you know, South Plains and all those out in Texas and whatever. But the real JUCO life, no offense to those guys, because they are great. I'm not criticizing them at all. But some of they don't know what the JUCO struggle really is when you're getting $60 for 2 weeks worth of work right there, and you're living in a town that Chester's Chicken is the biggest place to go visit. That's, you know, attached to a gas station. You know, that's tough. That's tough. But
Yeah, the last Chance U show when it came out, I'm like, man, that's nicer than any place I've ever been. We didn't have no academic counselor.
correct.
We were the academic counselor. We didn't have a trainer. We were the trainer.
A trainer? What's that?
What
We
is
went
that?
10 years.
DJ Hardy, you mean?
We went 10 years at Waycross before we got one, and the first year we got one, it was they were located in Douglas. So we wanted to see them. We had to hop in the van and ride over to the Douglas 45
We had
minutes.
to decide whether it was worth it or not.
Yeah, are you really hurt? Are you really hurt? Come on, man.
Really,
Fast,
we make this drive all the way over there.
All right, go ahead, Bowles. Get us in the lightning round, man, and we'll get you guys out of here. I know y'all got work to do.
All right. So we'll start out at, you know, it's funny, as a high school coach, all three of these guys have come in and recruited our guys, and you know, you get to see them and build the relationships. Jamie's right. Jamie saw us play so many times. Jamie knew all my set plays. I think my guys all knew him. They loved him. They're like, hey, is that coach gonna be here again tonight? You know, they loved him. But
And he went.
speaking of that, we know that recruiting is a big part of what you guys do. And we'll start with Jamie on this one. In all your years, and obviously Jamie and Newton, you know, we got 10 schools to get through. Man, what's the craziest, the best place that you ever went to recruit? Could be anything, a story, a gym, whatever it is.
I've got two of them. I went to Doherty High School. I'm from Albany. I'm an Albany guy, or so I thought until this happened. And so I go to Doherty High School, and it's a little, I don't know, 7 p.m. tip for the girls, so 8:30 tip for the boys. Coming out, I leave after the third quarter. It was a packed gym. All inner city games are there. Coming out of the gym, I'm walking along the grass up on the curb, trying to get to my car. It's down the street. There's a bunch of people starting to come out now. Cars coming this way down the street. It slows down as it gets to us. As just a group of people walking. I'm like, oh, they must be picking somebody up. I look to my right. All you see is a gun flashing out of the window. Guy's waving a gun and laughing. And this guy pulls me down with him. And like, I'm on top of him. Like I'm covering him up, and not by my own volition.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like using me as a shield. Like, we ducked behind the car. So that was one. That was pretty crazy. And then another one, Rico Dawson at Central Georgia Tech. My first year at Central Georgia Tech before I moved to the women's side there. I had to go pick a kid up from Donaldsonville, Georgia, and which is southeast Georgia, or southwest, excuse me. Almost about as southwest as you can get in that area, and Seminole County. So I go pick a kid up in the school van, bring him all the way. He sleeps the whole way back. It's like 3 hours. So I drive there 3 hours, pick him up, go all the way back. He starts his workout. Rico tells me like 5 minutes in, this kid ain't going to work, Jamie. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, this kid in for us. And so all in my mind is I got 3 hours there, 3 hours back, and Rico's going to tell him before we leave that it's not going to work out. And so sure as anything, and I told Rico, I was like, just wait and call him until he gets back. And so Rico's like, Coach, like, I just need to tell him I want to hold him up. I was like, is he going to make a phone call to another school on the way back? Like, you could wait. And brings the kid in. I'm sitting over there in the corner like this right here, just thinking. Rico tells him. The kid's a little upset. You could tell he's kind of discouraged. Get back in the vehicle. We get about an hour down the road. So what'd you come pick me up for, Coach? Like, man, I don't know. Like, just bring you in for a workout. I'll help you get somewhere if you need to. I'll make a phone call, whatever. So, yeah, that was probably the most awkward recruiting I've had.
Long van rides. We all love those. What about you, Newt?
Well, when I was your assistant the first year, one, I didn't know what I was getting into, first of all. I mean, I remember being there the first week going, this is different. And I'm just a kid from a little Christian high school, man. Like, I know you guys would never believe that now, but I was a little Christian high. I didn't know anything. And Baldwin sends me to Jonesboro, Georgia, to watch a Friday night game at Jonesboro. And Melman is the head coach. He wears a baseball shirt that has Hooters right here as the sponsor. And I'm like, and that's the head coach. And you're in Jonesboro, Georgia, where when the ball's on the other side, there are literally people standing on the floor and nobody like acts like it's a big deal. Like they're all hooping and hollering, talking crap on the other end. And like people are on the floor. I'm going, what are we doing? And it's a Cracker Jack box gym in the middle of there. And people, I mean, they had to stop the game for a fight. One of the players shoves one of the guys that's on the floor. And I remember calling CB on the way back and go, this is where you went to school? No wonder you're crazy, man. So going to Jonesboro was definitely an experience for a little Christian high school kid going in there. The other thing, kind of like Jamie, man, when I was at Arkansas Monticello, it was a D2. We didn't have no money, man. Like when I got there, we had 2 guys on the roster. We had to sign a whole new roster. And by the way, we signed 11 JUCO guys on that team that won. Well, one of the guys we wanted to recruit, his name's Geraldton Hill, is probably the best player that ever played at Monticello. Played at Wallace State, and we had to find a way to fly him in because he's from Melbourne, Florida. We had no money. We got like $200 left, and the only flight we could find was into Dallas. Dallas is 5.5 hours away. So, yeah, we're going to fly this kid in 5.5 hours away from our campus, pick him up, drive him to campus in the middle of nowhere, have his visit. All right, your visit's done on the same day, and drive him back 5.5 hours again. That is small college basketball to me, where, I mean, you're just trying to figure out ways to recruit with no money. No, we're not like on TV where you fly them in, they stay for 2 days, you eat and do all this stuff. You got to find a way to make it work. And I just remember doing that going, we're never going to get this guy. He's going to go to Flagler or somewhere like that. So those are my 2.
All right, Jamison, do you have one?
I don't really have one, but I will say this, Coach Newton talking about, having money and stuff like that. When I was his assistant here, before he left, I went on a recruiting trip. And matter of fact, the kid is here, Brandon. He's here now after 2 years. I go and stay, and Coach Newton asked me who I'm staying with. And he always he'll try to get a hotel, do this, buy this. I'm stubborn. I'd be like, Coach, keep your money. And now, remember, I make $60 every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Coach Newton paid for my gas. He give me his card. He say, get you some food. And, I told him I had somewhere to stay. I didn't. Colin's there now. Colin was gone, so I slept in my car for 2 days. And I bought I went to Pizza Hut and bought the 2 for $5 box. And I ate pizza and pasta for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 2 days. And I showered at the truck stop for $5 at the truck stop. And it was pouring rain. I slept in Walmart parking lot under the light for 2 days.
That is real JUCO.
That is real JUCO. All right. My favorite lightning round questions are a little quicker. I'm going to go with, I'll start with you, Jameson. Your favorite place to eat in Waycross?
Oh, Waycross. Oh, man. Pancho Villa.
I like it, AKA the Mexican trailer. They now have one across the street from the Douglas campus as well.
Hey.
So it's expanding. It's franchised out now.
You know I'm saying Jerry J's too, though.
Jerry J's as well. All right, what about you, Newton and Waycross?
Well, we ate it so many times. It has to be my favorite. It used to be called Rancheros. It's now called Searcheros.
Yeah, make sure you get it correct now.
Yeah, it's Searcheros now. When DJ was your assistant with me, I still can picture on his face going, "Are we really gonna go to Searcheros again?" And me and Baldwin were fired up, man. We get to go again. Baldwin, I swear, we ate there 3 times a week when I was your assistant.
Easy. What about you, James?
Mine's got to be the Mexican trailer.
Two
what's the name of it?
Pancho Villa.
Yeah, Pancho Villa.
Yeah.
Nobody calls it that.
And with a side of DD's Donuts.
Ooh, that's a true AX guy. All right, going back around real quick, and then I'll let Bowles do the last lightning round question. This one will be a little more personalized. All right, best place to eat in Tallahassee, Jamie?
Tallahassee, that's a good one. Our little spot is a little Mexican spot we go to right down the road, Casa Grande.
I like it.
2-for-1 margaritas, kind of top it off. So probably either.
Liquid diet.
Yeah, probably there.
All right, Newton, I'm gonna go with you. I know you've been in a couple of spots, but where was your favorite place to eat when you were at Lee University, Cleveland, Tennessee?
Ooh, man, that's a tough one. I'll be honest with you, I can't remember the name, but there was this one place that had a big train that goes around the top of it. Maybe it just reminded me of Waycross with all the trains, but it had the best French dip sandwich. Man, I feel bad. I don't know the name of this. I'll find out and ask Tommy Brown.
Sir will look it up. It will definitely be a picture of it now, right? All right, go ahead, Jameson. Best place in Thomasville, Georgia.
Oh, man, I got to go with Q's Cafe. It's a brunch spot down in downtown. Jamie, you need to drive down there and get you some of that. Jonah's Fish and Grits.
Hey, Jonah's.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it. All right, Bowles, finish us off. Last lightning round question here.
All right, last question. Can be any level. Your favorite or the coach that's impacted you the most. We'll go Jamison to start, and we'll go around that way.
So what? Hold on. Say it again.
So the coach that it has influenced you the most. It could be, Coach K. It could be Corey Baldwin. Name a coach that you've taken a lot from.
Oh man, I gotta go with Coach Cruz, Brent Cruz.
All right, Newton.
It's not even close. I mean, me and my dad are best friends, but as far as in the coaching world, Coach Baldwin for sure. We talk every day, and I learn something every day. It may be a funny story, but and we do a lot of that. But as my path has grown, man, anytime I get flustered, anytime I get frustrated, it's a phone call away, and he's got the right answer for me. And and sometimes it may not be what I want to hear. And he'll tell me that. And so, I mean, just every step of the way, and it says that about it. And it's not just me. He's got several guys like that. Not his players. You go and walk in the gym, and there is no more room in the hallway there in Waycross for all the pictures of the guys that have moved on. I spent some time cutting those guys out with him. But he does that for every one of his players and every one of the guys that's ever worked for him. And a lot of guys like to say that, hey, they're family. Once you come here, you're family. When you're Corey's guy, you were Corey's guy forever. And he's made sure he's kept tabs on me. And I know he's done for so many other guys that have gone through that program.
All right, Jamie.
The guy who originally made me want to get into coaching goes actually quite a ways back. Was my middle school coach was Trey Green, and we kind of reconnected more recently. Just kind of when I got out of coaching, didn't have as many coaching questions, things of that nature. But just kind of reconnected more recently, and he's kind of the one who made me want to first start looking into coaching, and that was back in middle school. Then high school, we weren't very good, so looking at the more coaching aspect instead of looking to further your playing career kind of made sense. And so he's kind of the guy at that point, but to Newton's point, consistently on a daily basis would actually be Corey. And just because we literally talk every single day, I think, even before a job interview, I'm calling him like 20 minutes before the interview. Hey, what's up? Whatever. But just literally anything. You just call and ask, talk to him about anything, everything. He's kind of seen it all, been at different levels, things like that. So, but yeah, just Trey to initially started, and then probably Corey, because we've known each other. 2006, I think, was our first year in the JUCO conference together, and so more or less just kind of made our way through the conference. Obviously, my more stops than his, but yeah, he's definitely kind of the guy who's been in coaching, mentor.
I remember when we were at Truett, Jamie would call me when he was at ABAC, and we had a year where we were very similar. I think we were fourth and they were fifth, and we would do a lot of stories back and forth about the season. We were both going through some struggles, and that was kind of where the relationship bonded. That's kind of interesting how things carried on. All right, each one of you guys, you get a closing deal here, and we're going to get out of here. We went about 10 minutes longer than we planned, but so keep it kind of short, not trying to kill you, but give anything you want to say, anything closing out. You go first, James.
Man, I had to go first, huh? Man, I really want to say I appreciate you guys. I know we got a long road ahead of us, but, sometimes we have to take the time out and be thankful for the people in your life. So give you guys a shout out for that. And any other coaches that's trying to get in this business, young or old, just keep working. You never know when your time going to come. And if it do come, good or bad job, just jump in the fire.
All right, it's awesome. Go ahead, Newton.
Yeah, I'm thankful for everybody in this group because each one of you guys have touched my life in a really positive way. Obviously, with the Andrew College path giving me my first chance at a head coach, but Coach Baldwin giving me a chance to work with zero experience in college and putting me on the path that I'd never be where I'd never in a million years think I'd be a college head coach. And I appreciate that. I appreciate, Jamie obviously helping me out there and getting me inputted in there at Andrew. And then I couldn't think of a more solid guy than Jamison to have worked with me and to encourage me on a daily basis. And I'm thankful for Bowles because I got my current assistant played for Daniel over at Brookwood, and he's been amazing, played for Coach Baldwin there as well. So I'm just thankful that I've been lucky enough to be connected in this tree and in this path.
All right, Jamie, finish us off over there.
Yeah, pretty much just hit on what the other two guys said. Just thank you guys for what you've done, and especially the podcast. It's always good for, you see the podcast of the more known guys, I guess, a lot of times, and kind of their paths and things like that. But a lot of people don't realize those guys also recruit the guys that we coach too. So, at the JUCO level and kind of help their teams and things like that. So I think it's, I was thinking just a minute ago, my first job, I had to sneak into the cafeteria through a back door to go eat. And then as a GA, Howard, 12, 14 years later, I'm making no money as a GA, and I'm still in it 14 years later. So it's kind of one of those guys who get into coaching, not to be discouraged because everybody's path, as the old saying goes, is indeed different. And even for old guys like me, so to jump into a completely new career. So just, think positively as you go about your day, and definitely always show the ones who helped you along that way some love.
It's good stuff, man. It's a great group. You guys have obviously helped me through my career. Appreciate you guys coming on here. I think it was good that Bowles got to be on this one. We would be doing a disservice if we didn't end it with, before we do our closing remarks, to let Newton leave without telling the story at Brookwood.
Colin, you want to come in here and join on this?
This is the recruiting story I was trying to get in that lightning round question over here.
Very disappointed that didn't happen.
So am I going to tell it, or one of you guys going to tell
Well,
it?
if you tell it, you won't tell the truth. So I probably tell it. So we go to
Yeah, go ahead then.
we go to a signing party at Brookwood. At the time, Brookwood High School is the largest school in the state of Georgia, and they have about 30 people literally signing to other colleges: football, baseball, basketball, volleyball. I mean, you name it. Girls, guys, it's slammed. It's taking up the whole cafeteria. Moms, dads, brothers, all their teams, their coaches, everybody's in there. I'm a foodie, so I take them to a place to eat. I think we actually went Chili's, so we went. Very rare that we go to a franchise, but we did. We killed it. Newton ate way too much food. So of course I did too, but I guess I was a little more used to it. Apparently Newton had also done a couple of 5-hour drinks to stay up for the drive since he drove us. So we get there and they offer cake, and I mean I couldn't have licked like one piece of icing on my finger. I was so full. So I was like, no cake. I'm sorry to be rude, but no cake. So Newton's like, I'm thinking Newton ain't gonna eat any. I look over, he's got a plate of cake bigger than his head. He's eating, and he finishes, he eats all of it. So then he comes over and he's like, Coach, man, I think I'm about to have a heart attack. And I turn around and his face is real pale, and he sweat. I mean, he looked terrible. And I was like, well, you've ate too much. Just sit down. We'll be okay. And then he literally looked like he might have been having a heart attack. Luckily, the school nurse happened to be walking by, and she checks on him. She calls an ambulance. And now we got an ambulance coming in to pick him up in the middle of all these guys signing. I think I did a signing picture before we went, me and Colin and his mom and dad and Bowles. And then Bowles hopped in his car and said, you can follow me. I'll take you to the hospital he's going to. And we headed to the hospital. And luckily Newton was just having a kind of a panic attack deal. Ended up being fine. And but that was our signing at Brookwood. I think we'll always be remembered. I think a kid signed with like Georgia that day, but I think they remembered South Georgia State more than Georgia. So that was the best part. And I still have a picture of Newton in the hospital.
Hooked up all the wires and stuff.
And I think I got one where you're on the gurney there, or whatever you call it, gurney, where they're taking you out. I'll send those to Circle. They'll be on the podcast.
Oh, wonderful. To this day, when I see Colin's parents, his dad goes, "Are you doing okay, man? Are you all right?"
And he has real concern.
He has real concern for my well-being. Well, yeah, I had a couple 5-hour interviews would have been is pretty generous.
Okay, it may have been more. All right, close us out, Bowles. We had to get that in. We couldn't.
No, that was good. I mean, we've had a lot of kids sign, and 15 years as a high school coach, and that's still the most memorable signing we've had. So that was good. But now, thank you guys for being on here. Guys that are listening, you can also keep up with the podcast on social media. Instagram is @offbeatenpath podcast, and Twitter is @offbeatenpath_. Thanks everybody for listening to the Off the Beaten Path podcast.
And this is a show for those who want to coach, those who used to coach, those who are coaches, those who follow coaches, those who hire and fire coaches. So pretty much if you're in it, you need to listen. All right, thank y'all.
See you guys.
See y'all. Thank you.